In the quiet suburban town of Crestwood, where the streets were lined with manicured lawns and the high school carried the weight of generations of entitlement and tradition. The arrival of Ms. Amara Blake, the new English teacher, was met with more skepticism than excitement. The students had seen many teachers come and go, but none quite like Amara, a black woman in her early 30s. With a calm, measured presence and an air of quiet confidence that seemed to ripple beneath the surface. Her braided hair was pulled back neatly, her clothing simple yet professional, and her voice steady and sure as she introduced herself on the first day. From the moment she stepped through the heavy doors of Crestwood High, whispers spread among the students like wildfire, but not the kind that welcomed her instead. It was mocking, dismissive, fueled by ignorance and prejudice. Among those leading the charge were Brent, the cocky star quarterback with a chip on his shoulder bigger than the football stadium; Chloe, the queen bee, who ruled social media with a sharp tongue and a cruel smile; and Trent, the class clown whose pranks often crossed the line into downright harassment. These three made it their personal mission to undermine Amara at every turn, mocking her accent, imitating her mannerisms behind her back, and questioning her authority openly in class. They weren't just mean, their words carried the sting of racial undertones, and they thrived on the power imbalance. Feeling untouchable because their parents were influential in the community and that school administration turned a blind eye, yet Amara met their taunts not with anger but with unshakable calm, continuing to teach literature that challenged the students to see the world through new eyes, works by Toni Morrison, Langston Hughes, and James Baldwin that few had ever truly understood before. Each day, as she prepared lessons and graded papers, she held a secret that none of them suspected before becoming a teacher. She had been a national karate champion, a black belt trained in the discipline and control of martial arts, taught by ex-military instructors who had instilled in her not just skill but a deep sense of respect and self-mastery. The bullying escalated, from whispered insults to public humiliations. Brent once pretended to trip her in the hallway while the whole school watched, laughing as Amara stumbled but caught herself gracefully without missing a beat, Chloe shared. Doctored videos on TikTok, twisting Amara's words into jokes, while Trent posted memes that turned her into the butt of cruel online jokes. The administration, fearful of rocking the boat and losing wealthy donors, dismissed complaints, calling the incidents typical teenage behavior and telling Amara to toughen up. But she refused to be broken. She quietly documented every incident, building a case not just for herself but for other students who suffered in silence. Then came the day when Brent took things too far, during a live-streamed prank in the classroom, where he tossed a chair near her desk, pretending to aim at her. The room fell silent when Amara, with the precision of a seasoned martial artist, caught the chair midair, her eyes locking with Brent's in a way that sent a chill down every spine. That moment was a turning point. The students began to whisper rumors about her secret strength, and even some of the staunchest bullies hesitated. But the truce was short-lived. The trio hatched their most humiliating plan yet, a hallway ambush dubbed Operation Bloody Mary, where they intended to trap Amara, douse her in fake blood, and film her shocked reaction to mock it online. What they didn't know was that Amara had intercepted their messages, prepared mentally and physically for the confrontation. When the day came, and the bullies cornered her in the dim corridor, she moved with the swift grace and calculated force of a black belt. With a single kick, she sent Trent's phone flying into the lockers, and a quick sweep knocked Brent off balance, bringing him crashing to the floor. Chloe froze, her usual confidence shattered as Amara stood tall and composed. Not a hint of anger, but a commanding presence that demanded respect. Security arrived moments later, but instead of chaos, they found Amara holding a shaken Brent in a controlled restraint. No one seriously hurt except bruised egos. The video of her taking down the bullies spread like wildfire, transforming her overnight from a target into a legend. The community was divided. Some parents demanded punishment for Amara, while others applauded her restraint and strength. The school principal, caught in the middle, called Amara to a tense meeting, where she presented the evidence she had collected: messages, videos, testimonies from other students and staff revealing the toxic environment that had festered for years. The tide turned, and soon the bullies were suspended, the principal reassigned. and Amara was appointed to lead a new initiative on diversity, respect, and discipline. She launched programs that blended martial arts discipline with emotional intelligence workshops, giving students tools to manage conflict and build self-respect. Former bullies were required to attend, and slowly, the culture at Crestwood High began to shift. Amara's journey wasn't without challenges: media attention, online hate, and the emotional toll of confronting systemic racism, but she stood firm. Driven by a commitment not just to teach English, but to transform lives. By the end of the school year, students who once mocked her now stood up for her. Parents thanked her for restoring hope, and the quiet teacher who had been underestimated became a symbol of courage, resilience, and the power of one person to change the world with a single kick. Chapter 2. After the shocking hallway incident where Ms. Amara Blake took down the bullies with a single, precise kick that echoed like a thunderclap through Crestwood High, the school was forever changed, but the real battles were just beginning. As the aftermath rippled far beyond the walls of the school building, that day, when Brent, Chloe, and Trent found themselves sprawled on the cold linoleum floor, humbled and shaken by the quiet force of a woman they had underestimated, the students who had once mocked Amara now whispered in awe and, for the first time, glimpsed her true strength, not only in martial arts but in character and resolve. The video of the confrontation, initially captured on a student's phone and quickly shared across social media, sparked a firestorm that spread beyond the campus. Local news stations picked up the story. Community members debated fiercely, and the school board was suddenly under pressure to act decisively. But Amara's courage wasn't just about that one moment of physical defense. It was about the deeper fight against years of systemic bullying, racial bias, and silent complicity. Within Crestwood's education system, she met with the school principal, Mr. Hammond, a man who had long turned a blind eye to complaints from students and teachers alike, and with unflinching calmness laid out the documented evidence of harassment she had compiled over weeks: threatening texts, the racist graffiti in the bathrooms, the dismissive attitudes from faculty who prioritized convenience over justice. Initially defensive, Hammond was forced to confront the reality he had ignored, realizing that the school's reputation and the trust of parents and students was on the line. Meanwhile, Amara worked tirelessly to rebuild a safe environment. For her students, she launched a pioneering program that blended her passion for literature and martial arts, using stories of strength, identity, and resilience as a foundation for self-confidence workshops combined with karate classes aimed at empowering vulnerable students, particularly those targeted by bullies or feeling marginalized. Word spread quickly, and students who once viewed her with skepticism now lined up after school, eager to learn not just how to defend themselves physically, but how to stand strong emotionally. The program began healing wounds that had festered for years. Yet not everyone was pleased. Brent and his clique, having tasted humiliation and public disgrace, plotted revenge in the shadows, their anger simmering beneath forced smiles and reluctant apologies. They whispered threats, spread rumors, and tried to undermine Amara's efforts by sabotaging her classroom materials and pressuring other students to boycott her after-school sessions. The tension escalated to a boiling point when Amara received an anonymous note in her mailbox, warning her to watch her back and cease meddling in things she doesn't understand. But far from retreating, she doubled down, strengthening security measures in the school and collaborating with local law enforcement to ensure protection for herself and her students. Amara's personal life also began to intersect with her professional challenges. At home, she grappled with the emotional toll of constant vigilance and the exhaustion of carrying the weight of so many hopes and fears. Her mother, a retired nurse and pillar of wisdom, reminded her through heartfelt conversations that true strength came not from physical power alone, but from compassion, perseverance, and the refusal to be defined by others' ignorance. Inspired by this, Amara started holding community meetings, inviting parents, teachers, and local leaders to discuss the culture at Crestwood High, confronting uncomfortable truths about race, privilege, and accountability. Slowly, allies emerged. Teachers who had remained silent stepped forward. Students who had been bystanders found their voices, and even some of the bullies began to question their own actions under the weight of growing public scrutiny. Local press began to shift its narrative, spotlighting Amara not as a troublemaker, but as a transformative force for change, a beacon of hope in a town grappling with its own prejudices. But the journey was far from smooth. One evening, as Amara locked up the school after a late community workshop, she was confronted by Brent and his friends. Their taunts were vicious, but she stood firm, channeling the discipline and calm that had carried her through so much. When Brent lunged forward in a reckless attempt to intimidate her, Amara's training took over. A swift, controlled maneuver disarmed him without harm, leaving everyone stunned into silence. That incident marked the end of Brent's reign of terror, as the school administration, now under intense public pressure, enforced strict disciplinary actions, including suspension and mandatory counseling for the perpetrators. The message was clear: bullying, especially racially charged bullying, would no longer be tolerated. By the end of the semester, Amara's efforts had seeded a new culture of respect and empathy. Former bullies attended restorative justice sessions alongside their victims, and the school celebrated a renewed commitment to diversity and inclusion. Amara was recognized with an award from the local council for her bravery and leadership, but she insisted the real victory was the change she saw in the students. The quiet girl who once feared speaking up now volunteered in class. The shy boy who hid his heritage proudly recited poetry by Langston Hughes, and even Brent, humbled and transformed, apologized sincerely and joined Amara's martial arts program, seeking to channel his energy into positive growth. As the school year closed, Amara looked out over her classroom, filled with eager, hopeful faces, and knew that while the journey had been grueling, the fight was far from over. She had shown Crestwood High that strength comes in many forms, that courage can silence even the loudest bullies, and that one person's determination could spark a revolution of change in even the most resistant hearts. The story of the quiet black teacher who took down the bullies with one kick had become a legend, not because of violence, but because of the power of resilience, dignity, and unyielding hope. Chapter 3. With the school year progressing and the initial shockwaves of Amara, Blake's confrontation with the bullies settling into a new rhythm of respect and cautious hope. A deeper and more complex struggle unfolded behind the scenes, one that tested Amara's resolve, ingenuity, and unshakable commitment to justice, far beyond the dojo and classroom. Though the students had witnessed her strength and the administration had taken disciplinary measures, the undercurrents of racial bias and systemic neglect at Crestwood High ran deeper than anyone had fully realized, revealing themselves in subtle, corrosive ways that threatened to undermine every step forward she had fought so hard to secure. As Amara poured herself into her dual roles as an inspiring educator and community leader, she began noticing discrepancies in how resources were allocated, which students received attention and support, and how disciplinary actions were that disproportionately affected students of color and those from underprivileged backgrounds. Undeterred, Amara started meticulously gathering data and testimonies, building an irrefutable case to present to the school board and local education authorities. She rallied parents, students, and concerned teachers for town hall meetings, where she spoke with eloquence and passion about equity, accountability, and the urgent need for systemic reform. The backlash was swift and fierce. Some faculty members accused her of stirring division. The school's principal initially resisted her demands, and rumors circulated aiming to discredit her efforts as overly aggressive or divisive. Yet, Amara's integrity and clear evidence won her growing support in the community. Meanwhile, the personal toll of her activism weighed heavily. Late nights were spent drafting proposals and counseling students overwhelmed by the same challenges Amara was fighting against. She grappled with feelings of isolation, as some colleagues distanced themselves, and the fatigue of constantly confronting entrenched injustice threatened to wear down even her formidable spirit. Still, the strength forged in countless karate sessions, discipline, focus, resilience kept her steady. She found solace and renewed purpose in moments of quiet reflection with her mother and in the bonds she built with students who had become her allies and inspirations. Among these was Jasmine, a shy but fiercely intelligent student who confided in Amara about her own experiences with bullying and discrimination, and who quickly became a passionate advocate alongside her teacher. Together, they organized peer workshops on empathy, cultural awareness, and conflict resolution, transforming once dense classrooms into spaces of learning and mutual respect. As the campaign for reform gathered momentum, Amara faced an unexpected challenge when a prominent local news outlet aired a segment questioning her methods, painting her as confrontational and divisive. The story sparked heated debates on social media, with some praising her courage and others echoing the critics. Rather than retreat, Amara harnessed the attention to amplify her message, participating in interviews where she eloquently articulated the realities of racial injustice in schools and the urgent need for comprehensive change. Her honesty and vulnerability won hearts and minds, gradually shifting public opinion and placing pressure on the school district to take meaningful action. Then came the turning point. An independent review commissioned by the district revealed widespread disparities in disciplinary actions, resource distribution, and support services, validating Amara's claims and prompting the board to adopt a sweeping reform agenda, including diversity training for staff, equitable funding policies, and mechanisms for student and parent feedback. Throughout this period, Amara continued to nurture the spirit of her martial arts classes. Using the discipline and confidence students gained there as a foundation for broader personal growth and empowerment. The dojo became a sanctuary, a place where students found strength to face not just bullies, but systemic challenges and personal struggles. The transformation was palpable. Students who once hid their identities now celebrated their heritage. Academic performance improved, and school-wide bullying incidents declined markedly. But the most profound change was in the hearts of those who had once opposed her. Brent, the ringleader of the Bullies, was among those who, humbled and inspired by Amara's unwavering strength and grace, sought redemption. He approached her one afternoon after class, apology sincere and eyes open to the damage he'd caused. Amara, embodying the spirit of forgiveness she taught, offered him a path forward through community service and participation in her leadership programs, believing in the power of second chances and transformation. By the end of the year, Crestwood High was no longer just a school. It was a community reborn through the courage and tenacity of one woman who refused to be silenced or broken. Amara's story became a beacon for others facing injustice, proof that true power lies not in intimidation or hatred, but in resilience, compassion, and the unyielding pursuit of what is right. The journey was far from over, but the seeds she planted promised a future where respect and dignity would no longer be privileges of the few, but the birthright of all. Chapter 4. The school year's closing months brought with them a wave of transformation and hard-won victories for Amara Blake and the Crestwood High community, but also fresh challenges that tested the very core of her spirit and leadership. As the reforms she tirelessly championed began to take root, they stirred resistance from entrenched interests uncomfortable with change. Yet Amara faced each obstacle with unbreakable resolve, knowing that progress demanded courage and perseverance. Beyond the dojos, Walt's influence extended now into classrooms, boardrooms, and community gatherings, where she inspired students and colleagues alike to embrace empathy, justice, and unity. The bullying that once marred school halls had drastically diminished, replaced by a culture of respect, nurtured by Amara's innovative programs, peer mentorship initiatives, and inclusive extracurricular activities that celebrated diversity and encouraged open dialogue. Parents expressed gratitude, students flourished academically and emotionally, and the school itself earned recognition for pioneering equitable education practices, making Crestwood a model for others grappling with similar issues. Yet beneath the surface, Amara remained vigilant. Aware that true transformation is neither swift nor guaranteed, she invested countless hours counseling struggling students, mediating conflicts, and confronting subtle acts of bias that threatened to unravel the progress she fought to secure. In one poignant moment, Amara encountered Maya, a talented young girl whose brilliance was overshadowed by self-doubt and the weight of family hardships. And through patient guidance and belief in Maya's potential, Amara helped her reclaim confidence and dreams of a future where she could thrive. As word of Amara's impact spread beyond Crestwood, she was invited to speak at conferences, collaborate with education reform groups, and mentor other educators committed to dismantling systemic inequities. Through it all, she carried with her the lessons of martial arts discipline, humility, strength tempered with compassion, which became a metaphor for her approach to life's battles. The journey also brought personal growth and healing, as Amara confronted her own past traumas and insecurities, drawing strength from the community she helped build and the profound connections forged along the way. The climax of the school year was marked by a powerful assembly where Amara addressed the entire student body, sharing her story not just of fights and discipline, but of overcoming prejudice, standing firm in one's truth, and the power each individual holds to create change. Her words ignited a movement among the students, who organized initiatives to promote inclusion and kindness, proving that the ripple effect of one courageous teacher could transform an entire generation. In a final act of redemption and closure, Brent, once a bully, now a peer leader, publicly apologized and committed himself to fostering a safe and supportive environment, embodying the very change Amara inspired. The story of Amara Blake resonated far beyond Crestwood High, becoming a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and a clarion call to fight injustice with strength, heart, and unwavering conviction. Her legacy was not just a school transformed, but a community awakened to the possibilities of justice and equality, reminding us all that sometimes the fiercest warrior is the one who fights not with fists alone, but with courage, love, and an unyielding belief in a better tomorrow.